For the first time since being acquitted in the chokehold death of Jordan Neely, Daniel Penny is breaking his silence. In an exclusive interview with Fox News' Janine Pirro, Penny recounted the moments that led up to the deadly encounter. Here's an excerpt.
He was just threatening to kill people. He was threatening to go to jail forever, go to jail for the rest of his life. And now where I'm on the ground with him, I'm on my back in a very vulnerable position. If I just would have let go, now he turns.
Why is that a vulnerable position?
Well, if I just let him go, I'm on my back now, he can just turn around and start doing what he said to me. So
Killing,
hurting.
In the full interview, which airs today, Penny elaborated on what prompted him to act. Take a look.
I'm not a confrontational person. I don't really extend myself. I think this type of thing is very uncomfortable. All this attention and limelight is very uncomfortable. And I would prefer without it. I didn't want any type of attention or praise, and I still don't. The guilt I would have felt if someone did get hurt, if he did do what he was threatening to do, would never be able to live with myself. And I'll take 1 million court appearances and people calling me names and people hating me just to keep one of those people from getting hurt or killed.
Social media users weighed in. Podcaster Eric Matheny posted, quote, "Daniel Penny is a throwback to an era when men were men, a dying breed in a world gone soft." Michael Schellenberger posted, quote, "It was dangerous to acquit Daniel Penny, say the media, AOC, and others. No, it wasn't. It was dangerous to charge him. It's bad enough letting psychotic people terrorize the public. It's even worse to punish self-defense. Their de facto weaponization of sick people is itself sick." Joe Walsh posted, "My take, 1, Luigi Mangione is a murderer. He should be condemned. Daniel Penny is not a murderer. Criticize him or thank him. He's a citizen who tried to do the right thing. 3, it's horrible that both Brian Thompson and Jordan Neely lost their lives." So we've, discussed this case a fair amount. I don't think it's surprising to see him now doing an interview and speaking out on his side of the story. I'll be interested to see the rest of it, describing why he did, from what he did from his perspective. Yeah. Jordan Neely had threatened people on the subway car, and that people were concerned, and that was the action he took. Obviously, it resulted, the argument is, did it result directly in the death of Jordan Neely, or was it a contributing factor? That Jordan Neely was also on a considerable amount of drugs and was not given adequate medical attention when the police did arrive, and so on and so forth. For all those reasons, the jury decided to acquit.
They did. I think that this is perhaps the topic that we maybe today will disagree the most on, because yes. I think, this case has obviously divided the nation, as the cliche goes, and the question is, Daniel Penny, hero or villain? And I think you at least lean toward the hero.
Well, I don't say, no, I don't want to, I don't want to say he's a hero. I don't, I lean toward he is innocent and was correct to be found innocent.
Right, okay.
Hero, conservative media wants to make everyone a hero if they've been mistreated by liberal prosecutors, and you can both be a victim of liberal prosecutors and not necessarily a hero. I don't know if he's a hero or not, but I agree with the outcome.
Yeah, and I don't. So look, I think the issue there, Daniel Penny in one of the excerpts we played talked about, I'm not a confrontational person and all of that. No one in this case, or certainly in the courtroom, had ever argued that Daniel Penny went out with some animus in mind to go and kill some homeless black guy.
Well, I think I would disagree. I've certainly seen, maybe no one in the prosecution, but there is so many takes out there on social media from, this is, a white man killing a black man.
But and so I know we quote tweets a lot, but we try to do it from mostly recognized commentators. I just think that the point is, were Daniel Penny's actions proportionate to the perceived threat faced? And I would argue that they were disproportionate, including the length of time he restrained Jordan Neely for, the fact that he was asked by one bystander to let him go and didn't, the fact that Neely's body went limp while Penny was doing all of this. That's that has been decided by the jury. They decided to acquit. The bigger problem, or the thing that I get more frustrated about, I can't remember, it wasn't Schellenberger, it was the person before that we quoted, the sort of, this is a throwback to when men were men. I find that just nonsense. I mean, the idea that you can have just a situation where people kill other people on the subway and get away with it, and then that's a proof of machismo, I think is just, I just don't accept that framing of it.
Yeah, that's not my take at all. That's, not the position I'm coming from.
Yeah.
Right. The situation is concern, I think a reasonable concern, that there was going to be violence on the subway and it was going to be committed by this person. And so Daniel Penny took an effort to stop that. And yes, the debate comes down to, was it disproportionate? At some level, it was certainly disproportionate because it resulted plausibly or contributed to his death, and he should not have died for the situation he was in. But that, but this is someone who had assaulted people, who had outstanding, had hit someone, I believe, on the subway or in a public place.
Yeah, but
and
Daniel Penny didn't know any of that.
Well, but I don't know. Does it matter if you know or not?
Well, yeah, it does, because you're exonerating his actions on the basis of knowledge that he couldn't have had.
Well, right. It's certainly knowledge that he didn't have, but whether it's a correct guess, the person, it is correct to view that person as a threat. It was right because that person is a threat and has committed violence in the past and had, I don't even remember how many arrests, had an outstanding warrant at the time. For instance, I saw the New York City Civil Liberties Union put out a tweet saying that Jordan Neely deserved basic human rights, a safe place to live, enough to eat, access to mental health care. And the community note on that is, well, as part of his plea agreement, he got all of those things, and he left the facility after 13 days. There was an effort by the system to accommodate him, but because you can't force mentally ill people to stay in treatment, this is what results.
I mean,
again, it doesn't mean he deserves to die, but the threat this man posed to the people around him was in fact credible. And I think, as I said the other day, I've been in a situation with a person like this in public, and it is absolutely terrifying.
So first of all, there is a really genuinely interesting philosophical debate about mental health and what society should be empowered to do if people who are clearly mentally unwell leave treatment or refuse to volunteer for treatment. And that is a whole very complicated issue about the rights of the individual versus the rights of the public to be safe from mentally ill people. But I think we just differ about what constitutes a threat sufficient to put somebody in a chokehold on a subway car. Jordan Neely was certainly verbally abusive, certainly verbally disruptive, did not, to the best of my knowledge, in this case, strike anyone, and was then restrained by Penny.
But he made a threat. He didn't.
But if someone came, I'm not trying to be glib here. If someone popped in to the studio off the street and started ranting and raving, we would certainly try to remove them, whether it was us or someone else. The point is that someone would not be justified in putting them in a chokehold to the point that they killed the guy, unless that person had struck one of us.
Not to the point that they killed the guy, but if the situation you described happened, I think you would be justified putting them in a chokehold, not to the point of death.
But isn't that the point, that Penny did put him in a chokehold to the point of death?
Well, that's what was debated at the trial, was the chokehold itself. The main cause of death was his underlying, that he had so many drugs in his system. Should you weigh the fact that he could have been saved if the police had taken sufficient action when they arrived, but were content to let this person die because they found him to be too gross and diseased? I think you're
about him as gross. He's still a human being.
I mean, yes, but I think you are responsible for your actions in public. And if you're mentally ill, to some extent your responsibility is mitigated. But you were in he had options to be taken care of that he willfully walked away from. And so then it's that's getting behind the wheel of the car. That's being reckless. If you are someone who is going to behave in a reckless, antisocial, and threatening way, and not just threat, because he had engaged in a violent way as well in the past. I think the presumption that you just need to be left, we just got to leave you alone and we can't be too hands-on with you, goes out the window at that point. Well, this is not the first time this happened to him. This wasn't a first psychotic break. This wasn't a first bad experience on drugs. This was a long and documented history of of ranting and raving and actual violence in the past that took place. All of that, to my mind, you know, if we're stacking up a list of criteria, at which point I say, you know what, I would have quit in this case.
So
all of that together gets me over the line where I say, well, it was a very unfortunate outcome. He should not have done the choke for that long, but given all of these factors, I can't say that I would convict.
So quickly, to reiterate, Daniel Penny didn't know Jordan Neely's history. So whether Jordan Neely previously hit anyone or not is, in my view, beside the point. In terms of mentally ill people, and it is well accepted by our society, I think, that mentally ill people are not held to the same personal level of responsibility or culpability as mentally healthy people are, for very obvious reasons. And I just get back to the point that were Daniel Penny's actions proportionate to the threat faced? In my view, they were disproportionate. The jury decided otherwise. AOC, I note to her credit, in my opinion, said the danger with that is you are transmitting the message that people can behave in that way without any consequence. And I think that is genuinely dangerous.
Sure. I would not make this argument necessarily, but conservatives will say, on the other hand, if you were to convict, you would send the message that no one should ever intervene or interfere in a case, even a case more frightening than this one, where someone was being attacked, perhaps. You're going to have a chilling effect on anyone doing about that, and they don't want that to happen. I don't necessarily take that view, but that's what the right is saying. Well, we did it. Yes, this is an issue we argue about, but the point of the show is healthy debate,
Absolutely.
and we like having that vibe here. Thanks so much for watching. Tell us what you think, and we'll be back with more Rising right after this.